you particularly slow when it comes to performing the daily living tasks? Then this video is for you, because you may win a 4-point descriptor. That's really important, because if government changes planned for November 2026 come into force, you will need to get a 4-point descriptor in any one of the daily living activities in order to get or to keep the daily living component of your personal independence payment. Therefore, current claimants should try to get a 4-point descriptor at their next review, even if that's before the changes come into force. That way, if you're entitled to a 4-point descriptor, you will have effectively future-proofed yourself. Of course, brand new claimants should aspire to a 4-point descriptor too. In addition, those claimants who are entitled to a 4-point descriptor but don't currently have one could, depending on their other points, find themselves elevated to the enhanced rate. The video explains why you can win extra points for slowness, how the descriptors are affected, and how you can demonstrate your entitlement. Right from the outset, it's useful to understand where slowness fits into the overall PIP assessment scheme. Whenever an assessor is considering the extent of a claimant's disabilities under the descriptors, they must consider what they call reliability. You may have heard it described as the STAR system. The STAR system requires the assessor to consider 4 things. Can you perform the activity safely? Can you carry out an activity in a timely fashion, or are you too slow or even too fast? Can you perform the activity to an acceptable standard? And can you repeat the activity as often as required? In this video, we're going to consider timely. The other 3 factors, safely, repeatedly and acceptably, can also score 4 points and are dealt with in other videos. The links are in the description below. Claimants should watch all the videos, then pick out all the 4-point descriptors that they believe are relevant to them, and then describe each one separately to the assessor. Let's get back to the subject of this video. So what does timely mean, and how is it assessed? According to the DWP Assessor's Handbook, a claimant cannot perform a task in a timely fashion if it takes them more than twice as long as an able-bodied person. If an assessor is satisfied that the claimant is 50% slower, they may categorise the claimant as needing the help of another person, whether or not the claimant actually gets that help. Under some of the daily living descriptors, a finding that a claimant is so slow that they need the help of another person can potentially lead to increased points. For example, under the preparing food descriptor, it's 2 points if you can do it alone using an aid or an appliance, but it's 4 points if you need supervision or assistance. Let's look at an example that concerns slowness. Does the need for regular breaks make preparing a meal so slow that you need the help of another person or even somebody to do it for you? Now let's look at some other examples that are found in the Assessor's Handbook. Are you an individual who becomes breathless and exhausted whilst washing and dressing and needs 2 hours to complete these tasks? When it comes to washing and bathing or getting dressed, it's 4 points if you need assistance to be able to wash your body between the shoulders and the waist. And it's 8 points if the assessor decides you cannot get dressed at all or you need another person to help you wash your entire body. Let's look at a couple more examples. Are you an individual who is physically capable of preparing a meal, but whose need for formalised ritual means that you take all morning to prepare breakfast? Are you someone who, as a result of their health condition, has obsessive ideas around cleanliness and takes considerably prolonged periods of time to complete activities due to repetitive and extended hand washing? Can you think of any of your own examples? Claimants should carefully consider whether performing the daily living functions takes them longer than it should. In order to convince the assessor of your entitlement to a 4-point descriptor for slowness, you should take the following steps. 1. Tell the assessor that you believe that you may be entitled to points because the activity takes you too long. Don't leave the assessor to guess what your expectations are. They could miss it. 2. Explain how your disability makes you slower. Tell the assessor which disability makes it take you longer and explain why, using examples if you can. 3. Explain why your slowness means that you need the help of another person. If you get the help that you need, explain who helps you and what they do. If you live alone and nobody helps you, tell the assessor what happens. Perhaps the activity doesn't get completed at all. For example, you can't manage to wash or bathe, you are unable to get dressed, or you avoid cooking meals. 4. Explain how the activity takes you more than twice as long. In order to award the point, the assessor must be satisfied that you are 50% slower than an able-bodied person. Therefore, they are likely to ask you how long the activity takes. You should respond by giving the assessor 2 figures: how long it takes you and how long you believe it takes for a non-disabled person to perform the same activity. For example, it takes me nearly an hour to get dressed, but my husband can throw on a few clothes in 10 minutes. As long as the figures you give are plausible, the assessors tend to take your assertions as the figures that they should work with. And finally, there's a lot to remember. I recommend that you make a good set of notes so that you don't miss any important points. I wish you all the very best with your PIP assessment.